Hi everyone, I'm Leonard Balsera, Fate System Developer for Evil Hat Productions, and I'm here to talk to you about what's new in Fate Core. Features that, if you're familiar with other versions of the system, will be new or surprising to you in this version. So, let's get started. One of the biggest changes we've made to the system are in the 4 actions and the 4 outcomes, basically a complete revamp of how skill rolls work in the game. So, whenever you take an action in Fate, it's going to be one of 4 actions. Those actions are Overcome, Create an Advantage, Attack, or Defend. In an Overcome action, you use your skill to try and get past some kind of an obstacle that's in your way. Pretty straightforward. When you create an advantage, it's basically exactly that. There's an aspect on a scene or on your target that you're trying to take advantage of, or you're creating a new aspect to take advantage of in the scene. If you're familiar with other Fate games, then you have heard of assessments, declarations, and maneuvers. Basically, this takes all of those actions and combines them into a single action for accessibility and ease of use. So then there are attacks, which is where you're trying to actively cause harm to someone. And then there's defending, which is you're trying to keep harm from happening to you. So those are the 4 actions. Then, when you make a roll, there's going to be one of 4 outcomes that occur. The 4 outcomes are failing, tying, succeeding, and succeeding with style. When you fail, you don't beat your opposition, which means either you don't get what you want, or you can get what you want, but it's going to come at a terrible, terrible price, a major cost that you're going to have to pay. When you tie, then either a special effect will occur depending on context, or you will just barely scrape by. You'll get what you want, but the circumstances are still not going to be ideal, so there will be a minor cost involved. And then, when you succeed, you beat your opposition, you get what you want without any fuss. And then, if you succeed by a lot, you succeed with style. So not only do you get what you want, but you get an additional bonus on top of that. So the 4 actions and the 4 outcomes are designed to be accessible and simple, but at the same time always result in some kind of dynamic or dramatic outcome every time you pick up the dice and roll them. So that's them. Fate Core now has 3 ways for you to have an extended or a dramatic scene. A scene where sometimes, whenever you don't want to resolve things with just one roll, and you want to kind of drag the proceedings out because it's a big point of tension in the plot, or there's just a lot going on in the scene. So we have challenges, which are when you're using a bunch of different skills in order to achieve a complex goal. Then we have contests, which is where you and another character are competing over a goal, but you're not necessarily trying to harm each other. There's not really peril involved, but you're still butting heads with one another. And then there's conflicts, which is where you are actively trying to harm one another, whether that's physically or mentally. And we've used these in past Fate games, but in Fate Core, we have tweaked them to be kind of very unique experiences, each one, the challenge, the contest, and the conflict. And to make them all equal, right, so that the GM and the players have as wide variety of tools as possible in order to resolve a dramatic scene. This basically means that a lot of what you might have considered social conflicts in previous versions of Fate are probably now better expressed as contests than actual conflicts, depending on the circumstance. Because again, now you use a contest when you're competing over something, when you have opposing goals, but you're not necessarily trying to harm each other. So all of that's been updated and streamlined and made awesome. So there's that. Another thing that's different about Fate Core is that scene aspects have an expanded role in play. It used to be that the only way that a scene aspect could really come into play is if somebody spent a fate point to bring it in. And sometimes that creates a situation where you have a fight scene where, say, there's rough terrain on the ground, and that's a scene aspect. But because nobody ever spends any fate points on it, that detail never really comes into play. So what we did in Fate Core was we decided that if there's a scene aspect, the GM can use it in order to justify making a skill roll. And it's really just, it's a justification. So, for example, if you're trying to move across the battlefield and there's a scene aspect that there's rough terrain, the GM can say, oh, there's something that's interfering with you getting from point A to point B. It's this rough terrain, so I'm going to have you make an overcome roll to see if you get across the battlefield without any mishap, or if something interesting occurs. So now there's a way for scene aspects to influence scenes just by being there, even if no one's spending points on them. Players can also get involved in this action, either by mentioning to the GM, hey, this scene aspect might justify a roll, or by spending a fate point. One of the functions of invoking an aspect now is to force somebody to have to roll an overcome roll to deal with an aspect. And this is how we do things like cover fire now. So somebody's trying to shoot your buddy, so you make a roll to lay down cover fire. And then when they're going to attack, you can spend a fate point to say, but my cover fire is an obstacle for you, so you have to make an overcome roll to see if you can actually shoot my buddy or not. And so that helps scene aspects get into the action, in a lot more tangible of a way. So that's a new thing that's cool. Character creation is really pared down from previous versions of Fate. Characters now only have 5 aspects. That's a chopping down from 7 in Dresden and 10 in Spirit of the Century, because we've found over time that with aspects, there is an oversaturation point. Like, you really want to concentrate on getting those few aspects down that are really awesome and that you're really going to use, and then as an alternative to having a pile of aspects laying about, some of which will stay underdeveloped, or don't pull their weight, or are not as awesome. So there's that. Characters get a smaller number of skills than in previous Fate games. Basically, we're taking a less is more approach with the default build. And that is mainly in order to make it accessible, but also to give you, in your tweaking and your hacking of Fate, a place to build from. So you'll find that to be a little bit pared down from previous Fate games. Also, we have put in a game creation system, which is sort of similar from City Creation in Dresden, except it's a little wider in scope because, of course, Fate Core doesn't come with a built-in setting. And so the first thing that you need to do when you sit down with a group of people to play Fate Core is to figure out what is it that we're playing. And the game creation system is a way for you to do that, to decide on a premise for your game, what its major issues are, what the scope of the action is going to be, and help get those ideas rolling to get you into making characters and starting a campaign. So so you'll find some changes and some tweaks in there that I think you'll find really interesting. So another new thing that's in Fate Core, and perhaps maybe one of my favorites, is the return of extras from way back in the Fate version 2 days. The version of the system of which I originally became a fan had a method for making extra stuff that goes on your characters, like powers, and, cybernetics, stuff that you have, like vehicles, organizations, and countries and stuff like that. basically a way of making extra stuff that's part of the game and attached to characters or controlled by characters, but not necessarily like an intrinsic part of the character itself. And what we've done in Fate Core is provide a method to make that stuff. So hopefully it'll be easy for you if you're doing a game that has something like magic or supernatural powers in it to just refer to that section and go, oh, cool, here's how I can build all this without having to do a lot of work and a lot of front loading. So now there's a streamlined, I keep using the word streamlined. There's a streamlined method to do that, and I'm pretty excited about that. Because I think it opens up the system to be able to really quickly handle a wide variety of genres and premises and so on and so forth. So that concludes our mini tour of stuff in Fate Core that's different from previous versions of Fate. I hope that everyone enjoys some of the new stuff that we are doing, and I look forward to getting all the feedback from the Kickstarter, and looking forward to the future. I'm totally jazzed about this version of Fate, and I hope you will be also. Take care. Bye.